May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings love life. May all beings awaken. Welcome to another Cuke audio phone chat. I'm DC, Poobah of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, coming to you from sleepy Sonora with Doggett Bandita, Feline Cuchita, and dear lovely Katrinka. I pray that you and yours are safe and comfortable and free from economic stress and able to get out and do whatever you want within the confines of the universal precept of do as little harm as possible. Today's guest is Barton Stone, a very early student of Shunryu Suzuki, a peace activist, an ecologist, a gardener, and a really good carpenter. We'll get to him in just a second. I've got about an hour on the phone with him, and then after that, I'm going to read some of his poetry and some from his interview. We'll get started on that after the pause to meditate. This part of the podcast, not the phone chat, but this part, most of it was done while I was running the air conditioner in this room. And that's the first time I've ever done that while recording. I never run air conditioning, but I'm going to have to in this room when I record, because I need to close the windows and the door. But you know, this is the coolest time of the year. Earlier, I was recording downstairs where it was fine. It was always fine. But once Katrinka got back, I moved up to the guest room, which is sort of small, and so I have to close it up. And I've been running a fan, which is okay as long as I keep it on the lowest speed. And, you know, I use noise reduction and can take that out. The air conditioning, I'll be working with that. Because it's going to get hotter, I'm going to need to figure out how to run it as quietly as possible, and then get the right noise reduction setting to reduce it. So I think it's pretty much okay. But you might notice a difference, like it'll be like this right here is really clean, and because I'm recording at like 4:30 in the morning, and and then other times there's more. There was also a weird problem with the mic level fluctuating. I don't know what that was about. That had never happened before. So anyway, you know, that's the engineering department here is having some struggles. So when you hear the bell, hit pause, meditate or don't meditate for as long as you like, then hit unpause, and we'll be waiting for you here, and we'll hit the bell to end the meditation, and then we can get right into it. So I'm going to start off with a poem by Barton Stone called Cheap Thrills. Chanting the Buddha's robe verse by candlelight in the cold dawn zendo, remembering our white fire star stuff, origin and destiny, sweet intermingling with all our relatives, breathing in and out this delicious breath, seeing in your total eyes your total willingness to accept my total love, being pierced and pinned by a phrase from a Mary Oliver poem, dreaming I'm awake and then waking up, sitting in silence face to face with my teacher, both of us knowing I am the one who has to say something, and I do. Sun warming my chest like a personal embrace, seeing the fox before she saw me. Box and lid fit perfectly. Scent of lime tree blossoms in the courtyard.
Hello?
Hey, Barton, David Chadwick.
Yes.
Can you talk?
Hey, David. Oh, good. I'm so glad you called. Yes, I was looking forward to this.
Yeah, well, good. So, you're being recorded right now
Okay.
for a podcast, okay?
A podcast. Oh, my goodness. All right.
Yeah, but you can start off talking about anything. Just say hello. What's happening?
Okay, and then you will edit it, huh?
I'll take out whatever you want, but tell me.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing X-rated so far.
Well, we've been for some days here on the edge of evacuation warning zone because of fires burning up above the Russian River.
Yeah. I've gotten some information from your area, but from Elizabeth Sawyer, they're close. But you're right on the edge.
Yeah, right.
Right? You're on the edge of the evacuation zone.
Right. So we've had piles of stuff that we would want to take with us in case the place burned down.
Yeah. Oh.
And have it by the door.
How does it look now?
It's a little bit smoky, but not very bad at all. We're gonna in the last few days have been no wind and foggy and overcast, and so the air it seems to clear out every night at least, and then has been getting a little smokier during the day. So we moved our bed back outside. We normally sleep outside this time of year.
Oh, huh. Yeah.
So we're able to do that again now, I think, which is a relief because the air is so good normally. Sifted through all the plants and gardens that we've planted and tended.
How are they doing?
Great.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, because of the pandemic, we've been staying at home a lot, and consequently have been spending more time in the gardens.
Yeah.
And in the landscape.
Oh, well, you've got some really nice landscaping there. How are the blackberries?
Oh yes, the blackberries are just now past their peak. And you can smell them along the trails.
I can remember them. I can remember going there when you'd have blackberry picking.
Well, this is the first summer that we haven't done that for, I don't know, 15 years or so.
Well, why don't you do it and just have, everybody you know is cool. They'll stay a distance or wear a mask or whatever.
Well, we don't want to scare people by having a big gathering of people. So I invited people to just come and pick whenever they would
Yeah,
like to, and
yeah,
people are doing that. But we're not having a party with
yeah,
live music, and
yeah.
the
Oh,
musicians were disappointed. It's one of their favorite gigs, they say.
oh, yeah. It was great. Yeah, I understand. I understand. So, how's your family? Uh,
Well, I had a niece, my brother's oldest daughter, Rebecca, died 3 weeks ago from the
oh,
COVID in South Florida.
really? How old was
Yeah,
she?
60.
Wow. Oh, terrible. 60. You know, when you say niece, of course, I'm thinking younger. Well, that's sad. That's sad.
Yeah, yeah.
And, uh, oh, yeah, Nanda. How's she?
She's doing great. She's
Mm,
she's on Maui, and she's just enjoying prospective grandmotherhood and organizing community gardens with people taking part from all the different genetic uh, heritages in Hawaii.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh, well,
And
that's neat. That's
yeah,
neat.
she's she's doing lots of very good stuff.
Oh, well, that's great. Um, you know, you first came to Zinson really early. When was that?
Um, that that was the I think it was in 1959.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
Wow.
I
And
think it was. I think it was the first, or if not the first, the second session that Suzuki Roshi did that I kind of stumbled in on.
wow. And you said, well, what? Why'd you go there?
Because I wanted to meet an actual live Zen Buddhist, because my all my interest had come from books from Alan Watts and D.T. Suzuki and and also some of the colonial scholars from Southeast Asia.
Oh, no kidding. Y-
Yeah,
Wow.
Max Miller and yeah, there were. I found uh, those books in used bookstores in Manhattan on the Lower East Side. There was I lived there for a while, and there was a row of little used bookstores, and they had all kinds of really interesting books like that.
Mm. Where were you born?
Kentucky,
No kidding. Wow.
yeah. But the sometimes the words would just kind of glow on the page of, like the Dhammapada was one of the first ones that I came across.
Oh, uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But then the Diamond Sutra and all the stories of uh, all the monastic rules of South Asia, and it was just very interesting.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow. Wow. And what led you what was your trajectory from Kentucky to Manhattan, Lower East Side?
Well, I got onto Zen when I was in school at Tallahassee, Florida,
Hmm.
and I had some friends in the gymnastics department there who we were kind of a little bohemian group around a bookstore in Tallahassee.
Ah,
And so we got, we shared stuff like that was interesting.
ah,
And I was, it really, like I said, words glowing on the page.
mm, mm.
So I set out to be, like a Dharma bum.
Oh, and that was 50s.
Yeah, it was, it was a beatnik thing. I
Wow.
wanted to be a hermit monk wanderer poet.
Mm, mm. That is fantastic. Did you finish college?
No, I dropped out. They didn't have anything to say about the stuff that I was interested in.
Right.
It was all these dead Europeans.
And
So
yeah.
so when I came to San Francisco with some other friends of mine from Tallahassee, we found out about Suzuki Roshi coming to town,
Mm,
and my my friend wanted to go and meet him, and finding out that he was a Zen Buddhist, I did too, because I had never seen one in the flesh.
ah. So what happened? How did that work out?
Well, we went and sat zazen with him a couple times, and then about the first weekend, the sesshin started, and it was basically just being in the zendo until bedtime, and then getting up in the morning and sitting zazen, and then going to whatever job we might have, and then coming back in the
Mm-hmm.
afternoon.
Mm.
So, but it was amazing to me, sitting by myself still that way. It was just, wow, that was a very revealing experience.
When you say sitting by yourself,
Yeah, just sitting still,
uh-huh, but you mean sitting in the
sitting
in
zazen.
Sokoji.
Oh yes, it's Sokoji.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
Bill Kwong was the Doan, and the Tenzo also, I believe.
hmm So he was hitting the bells and hmm.
Yeah.
So well go on. What dude, I just want to hear about your experience back then. That's really early.
Okay. Well, came to San Francisco and was sitting with him regularly, and was just very much liking that. But I never asked him to be my teacher, because I had this attitude that everybody was my teacher,
Uh-huh, that's not bad. Yeah.
and it seemed like kind of a ranking or a dominant submissive uh, kind of role that didn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
I had authority issues,
Uh-huh.
and also commitment issues.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so then came this article in the newspaper about a group of people who were planning to walk from San Francisco to Moscow against nuclear weapons and against war. And I thought, wow, that was, I was very politically open to something like that, as well as, I had been reading do you remember seeing a copy of Journal for the Protection of All Beings?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it was very much in the spirit that motivated that journal that led me to join these folks that were walking to Moscow.
Mm.
And I came back. I went with them for a few days, then came back to Zen Center and told Suzuki Roshi about it, and he was very interested and was supportive of me doing that. Not that I asked him for his support, but there it was. And I walked with them, and it was, I'd, sit zazen in the morning and by myself, and sometimes I would chant the Heart Sutra in Japanese as I walked, and it was, I was just really into it, and I was really into being this wandering hermit monk poet.
Peace activist, too.
Yeah.
Well, what was it like? I mean, tell about the walk, and what was it like, and who were you with, and who organized it?
Oh, there were a dozen of us who started out, and it was organized by some democratic socialists and some pacifists, Quaker. Mostly, or a strong element of it was the Quakers, but there was also A.J. Musty, who was the head of it, who was a socialist, and then Bayard Rustin, who was also a gay socialist, and so it was that combination, and they had already done a bunch of demonstrations against Minuteman missiles by trying to trespass on silos, and also they tried to do a nonviolent intervention at the Norfolk Naval Shipyards, where they were building nuclear submarines.
Mm-hmm. Was David Dillinger involved with that?
He sure was.
Yes,
he was.
Wow.
Yeah, David Dillinger. So it was, so we would walk for. Well, this is kind of a long story, David. How
go
long
on.
a version
No,
of it?
good. It's good. There's no time
Okay.
limit.
All right.
I want to hear. Where'd you walk? You walked from San Francisco to where and to where and to where?
We walked down. We walked down through Central and Southern California. We just went on Highway 1 down the coast.
Oh.
And
yeah.
And we would stop in the evening, and that's where we would resume the walk the next morning.
What about sleeping?
About what?
Did you just camp out?
No, we would usually find someone who would give us hospitality.
Oh.
We had a van that went along with us that carried all our gear, and so all we had to do was walk and carry these signs and leaflets. And the van would go along with us and have water and snacks and socks and things like that.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And did you go to L.A.?
Yes, we walked down to L.A. and then across the Southwest through up through Oklahoma.
What month was it?
Tucson. What month?
Yeah.
Well, it began the 1st of December, I believe, and so I think I remember that we got to Chicago.
Oh my
Easter.
God! And you were walking outside in the winter up
Yeah.
there? My
Oh, yes.
gosh.
It wasn't. Not all of us covered every step. Some of us we would switch off, driving the van and the
Hmm.
cars that accompanied, and going ahead to arrange hospitality for us in some church or farm or somewhere.
What year was that?
And that was 1960.
Is that right? My gosh.
And I met Marty, uh, Martha, Suzanne, as when we were going through Kansas, and we went through her little Mennonite college,
Oh.
and stopped and talked, and she, joined it by running away and joining the circus or something, and 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 then by the time we got to New York, she and I were really into each other, and she was pregnant. Oh no,
Aha.
wait, no, not yet. It was in that was in London. Yeah, okay.
Mm.
Yeah, London. Ellen was conceived.
How did you get? What, did you walk from Chicago to New York?
No, we walked down to Washington
Hmm.
D.C. and then up to New York and flew to London.
And flew to London. All right.
Yeah, and then in London we had a tremendous welcome from people there because they had their own anti-war movement going that was very strong.
Was Bertrand Russell? He was still going then. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
Bertrand Russell and the Committee of 100 and Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament, and yeah, they were good.
Uh-huh. You remember Charles Felix, who started the Pelican Inn in Muir Beach? He,
No, no, I don't.
well, he's the guy who put it all together. You know, he'd grown up in an inn. He was involved with that in 1960 in London. He said they had everybody that was important, and they thought they were going to get the whole world to disarm, and it
Yeah,
just didn't work at all.
yes, yes, I know. Yeah, well, that was, yeah, you have some appreciation of that, all the stuff you did for the freeze.
Yeah. Well, keep going. You're in London. What happens then?
Well, uh, we just enjoyed, such celebration and support in London, and then we walked down to the coast and took a ferry to France. And the French would not let us get off the boat. They were having the Algerian, kind of wreckage of their Algerian adventure up around them with army generals mutinying, and so they were just not up for any manifestations on the in public.
Yeah.
But we were committed to try to make it that we would not take no for an answer in this mission that we had kind of dedicated ourselves to. And so when they wouldn't let us off the ferry, we just took stacks of leaflets and put them in plastic bags and jumped off into
Oh
the
my
water and
gosh.
swam to various points around it, and the gendarmes were there at the dock waiting for us, of course, and immediately grabbed us and put us in their jail, um, and and then the next morning they drug us back onto the ferry and sent us back to England, and so then we got another ferry and went to Belgium and
Yeah.
resumed walking in Belgium instead. Walked across Belgium and West Germany, and then when we got to, it was during that time that there was that they put up the wall, the Berlin Wall, and so there was a whole lot of apprehension in the air about what might happen because of this, and so they wouldn't let us walk in East Germany, but they did allow us to. They did put us on a bus and drive us, and then let us out at the Polish border. So it was that section of East Germany that we didn't succeed in walking through. But we began to walk in Poland, and were very well received by the Polish people, and it seemed. And then when they got to the Soviet Union, there was a problem because they had not anticipated that we were going to lean so strong against Soviet nuclear weaponry and Soviet, intentions, military intentions, as we were. And here we were telling people to refuse military service and not to do weapons work and stuff like that. And so there was some tension there, and at the same time, they were treating us very generously with putting, meals out along the road with card tables and tablecloths on them. And
oh, really? So they let you in?
Yes.
They let you in?
Oh, yes, yes.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yes. Yeah, well, we had a whole lot of momentum by then.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of people that knew about it and then were tracking it and were interested in who was going to do what. And
I can remember reading about it, vaguely. I remember it was in the news.
Right, right.
Yeah. I mean, 1960, I was 15.
Uh-huh.
How old were you in 1960?
Let's see, 22.
Uh-huh. 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 Ah, so the Russians are treating you nicely.
Well, so we, Suzanne and I then, when we left, when we made it to Moscow, the Russians cut in half the amount of time that they would allow us to be there, and that meant that we had to walk twice as far every day. So we did that, but by the time we got to
Russia is enormous, and how far did you walk in Russia?
yeah, well, this was yes, from the Polish border at Minsk to Moscow. I think we had to do like 30 miles a day.
Oh, that's quite a lot.
That's right. Normally we were doing 15 miles a day. That was our, kind of our average standard day. And so to go twice that far, we were just exhausted.
Oh.
So we came back, and to San Francisco and Martha.
How'd you come back?
Well, we just flew back, and we dispersed then after having some, various meetings and things. And
well, how were you received in Moscow?
Well, there was a problem all along with the government group that was hosting us, because we just upset them with this military message, and they had the same thing to say as the John Birch Society people that we encountered going through the Southwest here. That our bombs are bombs of peace, and theirs are they are the evil aggressors, and
Right.
and we are justified in anything that we do, and they are not.
Uh-huh. Were there, but when you arrived in Moscow, did you have any banquets or meet with any sympathetic
Yes,
people?
yes. We met with Nina Khrushchev,
Oh my gosh.
and Nina Khrushchev was very gracious and down home, and a very wonderful woman. I liked her, but it was not. There was. I don't remember there being banquets.
Uh-huh.
There were some of us who the host, our host organization kept trying to keep us all together, so they could kind of keep track of us. They were
Right.
supposed to know where we were at all times, but in Moscow, a couple of us escaped to Moscow University, and with handfuls of leaflets, and soon became the centers of big student discussion meetings, which had happened also actually when we were going through the Southwest in America.
Mm-hmm.
We had lots of young people that would come out, and they would, start off giving us a hard time for not being patriotic or something, and then we would start talking about nuclear weapons and their effects, and they would just get really drawn into a real personal encounter. And I could see how that was kind of a harbinger, that feeling of what would happen later in the 60s in the counterculture movement.
Yeah.
And the kind of the political awakening of that generation.
Yeah. Wow. And how long did that all take? When did you arrive in Moscow? You left in December. Do you remember the date?
I don't remember the date we arrived in Moscow, but I remember that it took 11 months. That the entire trip took 11 months. So that would have been, October.
Wow. So what happened after that?
Well, so Martha and I came back. Well, I came back to San Francisco, and she came with me.
Now, when you say Martha, she was Martha Suzanne or something.
Yes, right.
Right. Okay, go on.
I called her Martha at that time. And anyway, so we lived in this little place in Bernal Heights in San Francisco, and it was my landlord there who showed me this Japanese Citizens League newspaper where the article about Suzuki Roshi was, that encouraged us to go down to Sokoji and meet him in person.
Wait a minute. You saw Suzuki, you were sitting with him before you went.
Right. Oh, yes. Okay. You're right. I confused the time in San Francisco. Okay. Yes. When we went back to, that was before I left. And when we went back to San Francisco, then the same fellow that we sat with Suzuki together, and I started a little Japanese carpentry business. And so we built fences and gates for people around the neighborhood, and then eventually got into the Carpenters Union. But he had been in Japan during the Korean War and had gotten very engrossed in Japanese culture and had married a Japanese woman. And so when he came back from Japan, he brought a lot of books and tools and things like that. And we started.
What was his name?
Lee Christensen.
I remember that name.
You do?
Well,
his.
Maybe it's from something else. But when you said Lee Christensen, it rang a bell. But anyway, I can't go any further than that.
Yeah. Well, yes. So we sat again, and regularly Martha, Suzanne, and I with Suzuki, Roshi, and then Lee got involved in alcohol and kind of broke up our little community on Bernal Heights, and so Suzanne and I had Alan had been born, and then I worked as a carpenter, and another child was born, Ananda, and so we started looking for a place in the East Bay where we could have some sunshine. And I had gotten more interested in political activism than in Buddhist practice. So, I was interested in the political activity happening in Berkeley around civil rights and stuff. It was during that time that I met Paul Disco, and we built houses together up in Berkeley Hills.
Oh my goodness! Is that before Tassajara?
Yes, before Tassajara.
Oh, you knew Paul before Tassajara. Oh my gosh!
Oh yeah. Well, he had been a political activist in Berkeley High, and so when we met each other over at our little place in Bernal Heights before we moved, he was getting more interested in Buddhism and Japanese culture at the time, and so he was really excited about what he was getting from me with that, and I was really excited with what I was getting from him regarding the political movements happening, and his parents were communist and activist, and so we kind of had a lot to give each other, and then went different ways. And he went to Tassajara, and Suzuki Roshi then sent him to Japan, and I went to Chicago to organize the proletariat. And
did you work with Saul Alinsky?
No, I worked with the Progressive Labor Party. We were Maoists.
PLP, right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
what year was that?
That was 69.
I was in Chicago with SDS in 64. Not long.
Yes. Okay.
Just for about a month or 6 weeks or something.
So if you were involved in SDS, you know that they were all kind of an overlap with Progressive Labor Party at times, and that Progressive Labor Party had this colonize the factories and
I definitely remember PLP people, and I've been with SDS in Ann Arbor, but I wasn't a student even. I hadn't gotten involved in the school. I'd come out of the civil rights thing, and I didn't stay long in any of it. It was just half a year or something like that. Uh, and then, I ended up in Mexico. But it was, of course, a big revolutionary influence on me, all that coming out of Texas. It was
Yeah.
great, great.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so you're up there with PLP in Chicago. What happened?
Well, as I, I read this article by Gary Snyder. Oh yes, I read an essay by Gary Snyder about when he compared the human domination over the other forms of life as the equivalent of male supremacy and white supremacy, and and there were a couple of other influences that happened at the time that just made that light up for me. One was
Mm.
seeing an exhibit of Chinese brush paintings, landscapes from the
Mm.
Sung Dynasty. It was all these, misty mountains, and then there would be a tiny little figure down in the corner under a bunch of pine trees, and that putting humans in that different perspective for me. I just
Right.
really, really loved that. And then there was the turning. It was around the time of the Earth Day, and a lot of Barry Commoner in the closing circle, and
Right. Right.
I was paying attention to all that stuff.
69.
And so I just started seeing, oh man, this class struggle thing this, Maoism is just kind of corrosive, and it's based on hatred, and it's just, I don't want to do it anymore. It just, I don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we drove back to San Francisco on a vacation. I was working at U.S. Steel, then Southworks, and
Wow. What were you doing
and
there?
I was a machinist or a apprentice machinist,
Uh-huh.
and a millwright helper.
Uh-huh. Wow.
It was part of our effort to join the working class and organize them. But so when we came back to San Francisco, I went back to see Suzuki Roshi, and it was all different. Suzuki Roshi had died. Actually,
Oh.
I knew that he had died, but I just was not paying attention to Zen Center or anything, and I came back, and Dick Baker was the abbot, and he invited us to come and live at Green Gulch Farm,
Right.
and so we did, and that kind of comes up to when I met you.
Mm. What was that like? I lived there in 73. Uh, but I was in there some in 72. I was in the city. I was work leader in the city 72, and I was his Jisho. No,
Uh-huh.
in 73 I went there as work leader. Oh my God, I think I was work leader and Jisho for him. And then I became his
Uh-huh.
main Jisho. So, uh, oh yeah, can't quite remember it all. And that's when we met, huh? I couldn't, you're in my mind, you just sort of go back forever. But, we probably met in 72. Were you there in 72?
No, I was there from 75 to 79.
Oh, well, all right. I came back from Tas Sahara. I was Tas Sahara 74, 75. I came back
Yeah.
from there in the fall, and I was out at Green Gulch a lot. I was running the greengrocer first. Uh,
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes,
yeah,
I associate that with you. The memory of you, although I don't remember the first time that we
yeah,
met actually.
yeah.
Anyway,
Oh,
yes,
huh.
yes.
Hmm. Hmm. So keep going.
Okay, keep going. All right.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's all good.
well. So um, I love being part of the community, and this was a big cultural adjustment from it. And I felt such a relief at being around people who trusted each other and who were not, predator or prey with each other, or trying to run some kind of game on them or anything. It was such a good feeling. Um, but still I still had that kind of anti-authoritarian
Yeah,
um, feeling, and I just could not take Dick Baker as my teacher,
yeah.
and yet it seemed like that was what was expected. And anyway, I resisted that, and I thought of him as a peer. I mean, when we parted as peers,
Yeah.
but um,
Well, he had to accept people in Zen Center who couldn't accept him as a teacher. Good Lord, my wife, Diane, who became Daya. Oh boy, she'd
yes,
chew him out. But he 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 took it. You know,
yeah,
she'd tell him. Oh, well, I don't want to go into the sort of things she'd say, but uh, he had to deal with people who couldn't accept him that way. He was pretty resilient, I thought.
yeah.
But
Oh,
yeah,
yes, yes, you're right.
and it was great. It was great having you around there. I can remember when I was there. I was the temporary director there in '85. I got you to and Paul suggested get Barton to work on that place up where Paul and Anna Hawken had been.
Yes, the Spring Valley House.
Yeah. Hmm. And well, go on. I shouldn't because I'm bringing it too far into the future. So what happened then?
Well, um, let's see.
Well, let me ask you one thing. What'd you work on at Green Gulch?
Well, I started off working on the Wheelwright Center.
Yeah, Wheelwright
Uh,
Center. With Ken Sawyer or with Paul or what?
no, with I can't
Jerry
remember that
Fuller.
fellow's name.
Jerry
Oh,
Fuller.
Jerry was on the crew, yes, but the head of it was a fellow who lived in Sausalito, whose name I
Oh,
can't recall right now.
yeah, 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 yeah. I know who you're talking about. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, John. It, 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 John,
Yes.
and he was very headstrong, and he ran into problems, administration, tangled
Yeah.
with decision makers and stuff.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
uh, I can't remember the last name right now. He was sort of
Me
strong.
either.
He was a tough guy.
Yeah. Um, so anyway, I did that, but I never. I was always kind of committed to um, the craft, and Paul, who at the time was uh, uh, Bekoroshi, was keeping him at Tasahara, and his daughter Maya was living with me and Martha Suzanne, and she was a whole lot to handle, and I really wanted Paul to come back so I could work with him, and he could take care of Maya instead of me. Um, but eventually that happened, and then I worked with him on building the old shop. And
Oh yeah, you mean you mean the big one?
yeah, the big one with the eucalyptus poles.
Oh yeah, that was made out of sheet metal and eucalyptus poles, and
Yes, yes.
amazing
Yeah,
building.
that was right, right. That was just um, Paul really being able to express himself.
Yeah, you remember
He
Jeffrey
did it.
Barrett, the engineer, structural engineer for Zen Center? Uh,
What was his name?
Jeffrey Barrett. He was English,
No.
and he lived
No.
in Mill Valley. He told me that building defied everything he knew, but that it would withstand. He couldn't see how it could withstand the winds and everything. He was very impressed with it.
Yeah. And then Paul. Well, I was working with Paul then on the Lindisfarne building,
Yeah.
and then I was the head carpenter on the Spring Valley house.
On the what house? The what house?
The Spring Valley house for that was supposed to be for Paul Hawken at the time,
Oh, right.
and so I was I left during that time when the work on it stopped, and I lived in Bolinas, moved to Bolinas, and
Did you move in? I mean, you lived with us in Bolinas at some point. You and Kathy Bennell.
yes, oh that's right, of course. Well, um, she was my girlfriend at the time.
Well, she she wasn't living. Well, she was sure there a lot.
Well, I left. Yes, Martha Suzanne and I separated, and she went to Texas, and I went to
Oh.
Bolinas,
Ah.
and Kathy and I did live together for a while. But when I first went to Bolinas, it was Liz's.
Yeah. Yeah. So we were living together then.
Yeah, I didn't see much of you though.
I know. Well, we were both busy. I was always working on something. Uh,
Yeah,
and uh, we, I can't remember. I don't know exactly what year. Do you know what year? Well, say 79 and 80, I was maitre d' at Greens. And so I was going into the city a lot.
yeah, it was during that time, I think.
I always had, yeah, and I always had a place either in the city, and then when Diane and moved to Muir Beach, I built that little cabin at Yvonne's. So I was like
Oh
halftime
yes.
either in the city or at Muir Beach, and I'd come out there and I'd write music uh, and work on music.
Oh yes. Oh man, you had such a good musical thing going with your CD
Well, and with your son Alan,
and Alan. Yes.
and uh, and Martha came back. I can remember her being back uh,
Yeah. She
and
came back
living.
and lived in Mill Valley.
She lived in the back there. I can't remember whose place was that. I can remember going there, but I can't see where it is. It was like in Mill Valley. Oh, all right. Well, yeah. So what were you doing then when you were living there? Where were you working?
Well, I came back and I was working on the Spring Valley house after a while when they after Dick Baker left, and then they decided to go ahead and build it. And
Yeah, that was me. that was me who got you back there.
Yeah.
Remember, Paul told me, he said, get Barton here. He can do it.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
in Paul's mind, you were the best. And I really liked having you there. And, you know, you're very steady. You're easy to be with. Um, say, one thing uh, that you got involved with at this time, oh, you remember, was the all species movement. And you remember
Yes.
Ponderosa Pine, Keith Lampy, would you call him a beat poet? Uh, was he one
Yes.
of the, he was one of the beat poets. Well, he lived with us. He was down in that little
Yes.
tiny shack by the studio where we were. Uh, and, you know, right there on Agate Beach. Beautiful place. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Uh, oh, wonderful.
We were friends.
And Keith, oh, he was something. Ponderosa Pine, I always called him Pine, and I called you Bird Brother. I didn't call you
Uh-huh.
Barton. You were Bird Brother. And what was
That
Kathy?
was Moth.
Moth. And I
Yeah.
loved the all species movement. And I think Keith got Mayor Feinstein to do something about that, to have All Species Day in San Francisco.
Yes, we had a proclamation about it, right.
That is great. That is great. Losing ground on that. Um, yeah. Well, I won't get into that. And India. There was something happening in India, too. Do you remember
Um,
that?
no.
I think Keith went to India and had something going there, or it might not have been him. It might have been other
Oh yes,
people you
yes.
all.
He went to Goa,
Uh-huh.
but I didn't know what he got going there.
Uh-huh. Goa's not really mainstream India, you know. It's down there. It's a lot of Christians, and you know, it was
Yeah.
Portuguese since the party capital
Uh-huh.
of India. Uh,
Yeah, I don't know. I never made it to India, but I remember he did, thinking that he could get by a lot farther on his income there.
yeah, he was something. He was something. So what? And you all made. I can remember feathers and stuff. What did you make? Masks or?
Yes, yes. We make masks and robes um, and kind of uh, take on an intention of speaking for some particular species or group of beings in human councils.
Right. And Keith said that since he was now a tree, he couldn't publish anymore because you'd have to cut him down to make the paper.
Yes, yes, right. And he went for a long time. He would not get into a car.
Wow. 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 That's amazing. Well, I
Yeah,
loved the all species trip, man. That
yeah.
was great. Um, mm.
Well,
So,
I kind of went then from that to interest in uh, uh, I guess shamanism and women's spirituality, the goddess. Um, yeah, women's spirituality was a big thing. The Great Mother.
right. And you were involved with that really powerful woman who lived up north. You were with her for years. What's her name?
Yeah, Sidonia Cahill.
Oh, right. Right. So, yeah, and I visited you all there. I remember that. Tell us about that.
And we took people out on Vision Quest trips, and that was kind of our main gig.
Hmm. Hmm.
And would go through lots of, processes with them to connect with the plants and animals and minerals of the place, and so it fit right into what I was doing with all species movement and the deep ecology thing, and
Sidonia Cahill was a very interesting woman, and you can read about her. Just Google her. There's books she wrote, and there's testimonials on her. Sedoniacahil, Sidonia Cahill. And next, he's going to talk about becoming a student of Jisho Warner, who's the teacher of the Stone Creek Zen Center in Grayton, California, in Sonoma County. And Jisho was an editor and a copy editor. She copy edited for Michael Crichton until he wrote some book about women or something. It was too much for her. And she helped edit both Thank You and Okay and American Zen Failure in Japan for me, and Crooked Cucumber, The Life and Zen Teaching of Shunryu Suzuki. And she's quite a teacher, has a nice following, and like he said, she was a bullfighter. That's true, in Colombia. Yeah, she's got quite an interesting past.
so went from there to moved up to Sonoma County when I was with Sidonia, and just fell away from Zen practice altogether for some years until Elizabeth told me about Jisho, this out lesbian woman who was Harvard graduate and former bullfighter.
That's right. Jisho Warner.
Yes. So I went to see her and to Stone Creek to her Dharma talks, and I just loved what she had to say, and it brought it all back to me, and so I just I asked her to be my teacher then, and gave up my authoritarian issues and commitment issues, and just said, okay, I'm going to say yes. When I say yes, it seems like good things happen sometimes. So I did, and it did.
And she's located in Grayton, right by Sebastopol. Were you living yet? Where were you living then?
Let's see. That was trying to remember. I think I was living in a little cabin in Furlong that was
Furlong. Where's that?
Furlong Road. It's off of Highway 12 in West Sebastopol. Yeah, Furlong. Yeah.
Furlong.
Furlong.
Oh, okay.
It's off of goes between Occidental Road and Bodega Highway.
Oh yeah, of course I know it. Oh wow, that really is remote. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
And that was where I was living when Constance and I got together.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, so then I started working with Paul again when he got this huge thing for Larry Ellison.
Yeah, Larry Ellison.
Yeah. So I just dove right into that, and the Buddhist returning to Buddhist practice just felt like such a seamless part of it. It just was really good, and so I would
Yeah, that's
sit with
terrific.
Jisho on the weekends, and during the week I'd stay down in Oakland and go to Berkeley Zen Center
Yeah,
for
yeah.
morning zazen.
And one thing I'd like to point out is that spontaneously you got hold of me because I'd already started Cuke.com when Crooked Cucumber came out, in '99, and somehow I don't know how you realized I was working all the time and all that stuff, and you said you wanted to help me, and you started sending me $50 a month, man, and that was really helpful, and that went on a long time, and now I'm completely supported by donations. I run through all
Uh
the
huh.
family money and everything, and I have a number of people who are subscribers, PayPal subscribers. They get donations. Never enough, but you were the first to uh, uh, give something monthly. So you're, of course, in the altar of my mind, there's a picture of you, and I uh, make offerings to it every day.
Oh, well, thank you, David. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, so, wow, and there you are. Um, that's terrific. Have we missed anything?
I don't think so. Well, what I'm doing now is still in that same vein of all beings, and redirecting something about how we've gotten away from our connection to all beings, and
Yeah,
imagine ourselves as separate, unique. Well, we are unique and separate, but that's too much. Too much of that is the delusion of it.
right,
And so what
right.
I do now is just I have an outdoor sitting group that's been going on for 3 years.
Oh, is that right? They sit at your place there, huh?
Yeah, right. And
Yeah, excellent.
uh, people come and we bow in and do a little chant, and then people head out to their sit spot out in the landscape somewhere, where they're not, kind of where their encounter is mostly non-human,
Yeah. Oh,
and
that's neat.
to be open to it, whatever it is, and
Mm.
so then we sit for 45 minutes or so, and then come back together and have a little council, and people kind of give the highlights of their experience there, and or sometimes we have a talk or have a poem that we discuss or something like that,
Mm.
and it's really sweet, and people really feel like it's important.
Mm.
Surprised me. I mean, some especially this one guy who drives across town to sit under a tree, and I tell him, hey, you can sit under a tree anywhere. Man. You don't have to drive across town to do that. And but he does.
No, I'd do it. I mean, I wish I were there and could come sit with you. But I don't want to drive anymore. I don't need to drive here. Uh,
Yeah.
Mainly walk and do. We do some driving, uh, riding,
Yes.
but
Yes.
mainly everything we do is pretty near here.
Yeah.
Uh,
I remember Bali. It's uh, a lovely place to walk.
when were you here?
Um, let's see. I came there once with Sidonia. Um, uh, let's see, 90. Maybe it was about 88. I think
Mm.
it was about 1988. Yeah, a long time ago. Anyway,
Hmm.
and then I was there again about 10 years ago, it must have been,
Is that
with
right?
Constance and her sisters. I mean, her daughters.
Well, come visit
Uh,
us.
oh,
Uh,
I'd love to. I'd love to. Yeah.
uh,
Anyway, yes, I love Bali.
you could stay in the living room. We used to have a guest room, but I've turned it into a recording room, and I work in here
Uh-huh.
every day. uh,
Uh-huh.
uh, but you can stay in really nice places that are really near here for way cheaper than you know in America. Like super nice, beautiful
Yes.
place with pools here 10 minutes from the beach for 35 bucks a night, right? uh,
Uh-huh.
I mean that's because we know the guy who owns it.
Yeah.
It'd normally be more like 50 bucks a night, but it's the sort of place
Uh-huh.
that'd be 150 a night or something, or uh,
Yeah.
two, 200 a night in America. I don't know what. I never stayed in a place that expensive uh, where it costs that much. Uh, and I said, he could, we could get him a cut rate and he could, stay $35 a night. But that's in a really nice place. You can get fairly nice places here for like $15, $20 a night. I'm talking about before the virus. Right now you can't get in. But if we want to go spend a weekend at a luxury hotel, in Seminyak or Nusa Dua, some of those fancy places, we can get a really, really good deal. I don't think we're going to do it because we're fully involved in, we'd have to get a driver and go over there. And um, I don't know. It'd be a nice little vacation. But and even though it's real cheap, it would cost money, and we have to be rather frugal. Uh,
Yes, I really I really like Bali a lot. People are so crafty. I love their craftiness,
well,
and
yeah,
and um, and I love how happy they are. And I just never. I don't remember ever encountering some Balinese person with an axe to grind, or
no kidding, no kidding.
yeah.
You know, so we've been here almost 7 years now, and
Uh huh.
I've never seen road rage. I've never
You've
seen
never seen
road rage,
road rage. Uh huh.
and there's a lot of traffic here now.
Yeah.
Not now with the virus, but there's a lot of traffic, and they're cooperative the way they drive. You can, you know, if you want to make a left turn and there's constantly cars on the other side coming, you just start and they'll stop and let you go through. And everything's like that. It's very cooperative. Now, I asked people about it. I say, are all the islands like that? They say, well, no, it's much worse in Java or something. But anyway, people are very easygoing here. Like everybody wears masks. They're not people angrily uh, asserting their independence. However, they're sort of loose about it. I see people, once they get away from the public going into a place or something, especially young people, they'll relax all those rules. But there hadn't been a lot of virus here, unique in Indonesia. I mean, Indonesia's got the worst record in Asia, but Bali's doing
Well,
pretty well. But you gotta. There's no end to it so far. So there's been a little uptick recently, uh, but so there's 4,200,000 people here, and there's 56 recorded deaths so far, and
uh-huh.
there's about 600 people here now who are positive who haven't recovered. And there's been about
Mm.
3,500 recovered, something like that. So,
Yeah, well, that it sounds like a lot better than what's happening here.
oh no,
It's
America's
still,
just, but it depends on where you are in America. It's probably not so bad where you are. Katrinka was there for a month. She couldn't get back here, with her son in
hmm
Oregon, and in a little town abandoned on the coast. And no, there was nobody positive. There's still nobody positive there. And she'd go take walks to the beach and in the woods and everything, and she'd make little videos. And I never see anybody else in them. So
uh-huh.
uh, uh, depends on where you are. Uh, well, hmm. Well, that's good. You're doing all that.
Well,
That's good. It's really good being in touch with you. I miss you and my friends uh, there. Um, I say your names though. I run through a list of names. I do "May all beings be happy," and and I have all these names I go through, and different on different days. Some basic ones, the family and the uh, but anyway, I've been very lucky to have uh, been associated with you and so many people that I met through the Zen Center.
wow. So you put my name on that list?
No, there's nothing written. It's just in my mind.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
So you say it, and
yeah. I run through it. I won't start listing names because I'll forget people.
yes,
Uh, and but then whoever I'm not remembering to say, I just sort of
yeah.
visualize, everybody there, and all my friends, loved ones, this and that. Yeah, I
uh,
start off with walking meditation because I've done Vipassana retreats here, and finally, I
uh-huh.
never cared about walking meditation that much, but we do an hour of walking, an hour of sitting, all day long, and so now I start off with walking meditation, and I start up chanting. Uh, and
Uh-huh.
I'll either do it out loud or I'll just do it uh, in my mind silently and run through
Uh-huh.
various things. Uh, uh, and anyway, and basically gratitude. Um, yeah, to me that's the key. Gratitude.
Yeah.
It can all come
Right.
down to
Yes,
thank you.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's the key. Uh, I also do a little email, send out a little email on Wednesdays that includes a poem and a image of the Buddha sitting under a tree.
Well, you send me.
And
Put me. You got my
okay,
email. Put me on your
I got
list.
your email. I'll put it on there and send it to you.
Yeah, yeah. I'd love to have that. I'd love to have. That'd be great. Um,
I need to.
I've gotten involved with poetry slams here. It's much younger people,
Uh
and
huh.
I won the first one I was in. I don't like the competitive thing in the voting, but that was a real a song I wrote. I write a birthday or Valentine song for Katrinka every birthday, every Valentine, or I give her a poem or
Well,
something, you know.
okay.
And
All right.
so
I'll
I
trade you my Wednesday emails for your songs and poems.
I will uh, that the one I won with was like super sexy, raunchy, delivered like James Brown. But I didn't sing
Yeah.
it. I
Oh,
just
good.
said it like I was some minister, and then I ended it by saying for my beloved wife Katrinka on her 70th birthday, and that blew everybody's mind. and But then after that, I would concentrate on climate change and uh, the reason this all came up in my mind. We were talking about all species. I point out in one it, the poem. I don't really care about the poem. I just write out real quick what I want to say. I did one called "Welcome, Good Members to the World Suicide Club." You remember the World Suicide
Oh
Club?
yes, oh yes, I certainly
and
do.
it says, we're ahead of schedule already. We've taken half the animals, half the plants, hell, half the ocean life. And so, you know, uh, I salute you for your work with all species, but we are losing, man. Uh, but we never know what will happen. Lovelock, who he is. My God, what is he now? 103, 104? The guy who created Gaia, the
Oh
the
yes, uh-huh.
concept of Guy James Lovelock.
Right.
He says we don't know what's going to happen, but he suspects that there's going to be a big die-off of people. Maybe 80% of the human population will be eliminated, and he thinks it really has to happen, and he hopes that out of that will arise a sane, uh, uh, civilization. That's
Yes.
pretty optimistic.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Right.
uh,
That's it seems like a long shot.
yeah, yeah, I think it is. Uh, but I put my faith in the whole cosmos because the whole universe is full of organic matter, and just everything is being born and dying all the time. So we're real attached to the earth, and we should do everything possible to try to preserve life here. But if we fail and it all dies out, in the big picture, it doesn't matter. It just keeps coming. Did you hear that beep? Lost internet then. Just bang, got disconnected. So I can get online with my iPhone by drawing off what we call data here from the what we call Pulsa, paying for just a regular cell phone connection. So I called him up and said, "Hey, lost the internet," and we said, "Oh, that was great. Hey, good talking with you and all that." And I got an email from him this morning and asked some more questions. and he sent me another poem. I think I'll go to the very end and read the poem he sent me this morning. So that'll happen then. And what'll happen now is we move over to, I'm going to be reading other poems and have the interview with Barton. Okay, so that's the phone chat with Barton. And now there's going to be poems and an interview and a little more about him to follow. Right back there at the first of the phone chat, I asked how Ananda, his daughter Ananda, was doing. And then later you learn he had a son. And I hadn't asked how his son is doing. His son, Alan, and I mentioned that Alan and I had played music together. He was a guitarist, and he did lead guitar with a little band we had back in around 1980, and that was neat in Bolinas. And we played a couple of nights a week, just in the studio there, and we made a little tape. Anyway, Alan got brain cancer and died. It was very sad. And I visited him when he was dying, and he'd come by and visit me some before, he was sick, and even when he was sick. And I went and heard him play with another band. But anyway, that was sad, very sad. And the musical introduction you heard to this podcast and the musical interludes are from that tape we made, and Alan's on lead guitar. And the whole song, Fooled by Everything, will come at the very end of the podcast. And right before I say goodbye, I'll give you some details on it, who's on what on it. You can hear it and the other songs on this tape, which is called Fooled by Everything, by going to diffusermusic.com. Just look down on the homepage, there's a link to it there. So here's another poem from Barton. It happened again. It happened again this morning. Did you see it? All of Northern California swung around so that it was facing toward the bright sun. We were so excited. We stood in its warm light and felt its flooding energy even through our clothes. Out the kitchen door the tall trees stood still and let themselves bathe in its brightness. Below their high branches, silver-green huckleberry bushes pumped so much oxygen you could almost see it rise around them. Colors everywhere intensified and changed as surface wetness evaporated. In the valley below, the upper layers of fog became so illuminated that they shone as if the light was inside them. And indeed, it may have been. It seemed that the land itself and we too dropped our busy purpose for a time, grateful to be in this luminous event. Rapidly, we could sense the movement of blood, water, and sap carrying brightness to dark and remote parts of ourselves. Bones began to warm, shoulders relaxed. It could have been an ordinary day if we wanted. So let's go to the interview with Barton Stone. Now, it's got a lot of the stuff he said in his phone chat, but it's got some he doesn't. He says, I went to college at Florida State U, but my parents had moved all around the South, Mississippi and Alabama. I dropped out of college in my third year of school. Guy, you made it that far. I didn't. And had gotten more interested in Buddhism and poetry than the curriculum there. It was the days of the Dharma bums. I think it had been published then. I knew Hal had. So I made my way to San Francisco and found Suzuki Roshi through my landlord and friend Lee Christensen. He'd been in Japan during the Korean War and had gotten very taken with Japan and its culture. He saw an article in the Japanese American Citizens League newspaper that Suzuki Roshi was going to be teaching something or meeting people at Sokochi Temple, maybe an open house. So Lee went there and came back and told me about it. He'd made some connection with Suzuki Roshi and liked it. We found out he was sitting zazen every morning and having lectures every Sunday. This was like in April or May of 1960. I'd come up from Mexico in January or February. Okay, I'm going to comment here. Yeah, when Barton said in the phone chat that he arrived in 59, and he said it was near the first or second session, and then he said Bill Kwong was hitting the bells, I knew it was in 1960. It just seemed too early. That's interesting. He came up from Mexico in January or February. Yeah, that's how I came to Zen Center. I came from Mexico, hung out in Fort Worth just a little bit, a few weeks, and went to California and San Francisco. But I was 6 years after him. So we started going in the morning and learning how to sit, and it was my first experience of Buddhism that wasn't just from a book, and it was very exciting. See, uh, this interview was in 1996, so it was 24 years ago. So he'll remember different things, right? And maybe a little more. And we ended up sitting the first session at Sokochi in the summer of 1960. It was a 5 or 6 day sitting. I think we ended it with the Sunday morning lecture. Okay, that was the second session. The first session was just 2 days, but that was a big deal. That was in February. Here, I'll read you what I have. I have a page for the second session, but it has information on both. And here's what Suzuki wrote. He gave everybody who was in it a remembrance, a card with calligraphy and something he wrote on it. And it says, on February 20th and 21st, 1960, we had the first session of this temple. And the second session is on August 22nd through the 28th, 1960. Just to join this session is incomparably deep, no matter what your state of mind may be. We don't expect anything of this session but to practice as a Buddhist. I wish we will be an eternal friend of the student of Buddhism. And he signed it Suzuki Shunryu in Japanese, in kanji. And then he wrote Reverend Rev, Shunryu Suzuki Sokoji Temple, San Francisco, August 22nd, 1960. So there you are. Yeah, wow, way back then. Okay, back to reading Barton's interview. Suzuki wrote she did the bells and Mokugyo and led the chanting by himself. Bill Kwong was his main helper, so Bill did some of that stuff too. The Zendo upstairs had folding chairs against the back wall and tatami mats against the walls with zabutans and zafus. Sometimes people would use a chair to sit in, but mainly we sat in the cushions. The chairs were mainly for the Sunday lectures. I remember Betty Warren and Della Gertz. I really didn't sit very much before that first session. It was 5 or 6 days. Suzuki was just such a delightful person who seemed to take great pleasure in everything that was happening around him. He was just full of chuckles, and I liked that. I could understand very little of them. Months and months later, I realized that he knew lots of words, but his pronunciation made it so that it was a long time before I could remember what he was saying. One word I remember was attitude. Attitude. It was attitude. Attitude. And I heard it 1,000 times before it was anything but nonsense syllables to me. I went to the lectures anyway. I enjoyed his pleasure in things a lot, his earnestness and sincerity. He was sitting there every day, if anybody came or not. Normally the morning group around the time of the session was 6 or 8. I don't remember an afternoon sitting. That's right, there wasn't an afternoon sitting yet, I don't think. Well, I don't know, an afternoon sitting came, it was the second afternoon sitting that didn't come until, I don't know, 65 or something. surely in the archives or maybe in Crooked Cucumber or somewhere when the afternoon sitting started. And it might have been going by then. And he just didn't have time for it, you know. In 1960, I walked across America with a group called the Committee for Nonviolent Action that included some Quakers and some Democratic socialists like H.A. Musty, and included A. Philip Randolph, head of the Pullman Porters Union, David Dillinger of the Chicago Seven. It was an anti-nuclear group that had protested against nuclear weapons in the 50s and continued on. So this was a project of theirs. We walked for nonviolent resistance to the idea of peace through strength and nukes and to joining the army. It was to be a walk to Moscow, and I went to see them off. But I liked it, and so I started walking with them, 12 of us. And they had room for me to sleep with them the first night. So I walked with them toward LA for another day and then another. And then I went back to San Francisco and told my roommate I was leaving and quit my job and went and talked with Suzuki Roshi. We walked from LA through Arizona and New Mexico. Birchers were following us there and demonstrating against us. And we went through the panhandle of Texas to St. Louis, to Chicago, to Washington, and New York. A lady who joined us in Texas, Martha, and I started getting pretty close, and by Chicago, we were lovers. We all flew to England and then took a ferry to France, where they refused us because they were almost having a coup because of losing Algiers, and so they didn't want protesters of any kind there. We jumped off the ferry and 2 of us made it to Paris, but the rest of us were caught and thrown in jail, treated pretty harshly, and put back on the ferry the next morning. So we went through Belgium to West Germany and got there the day East Germany closed the border, what led to the Berlin Wall. And they wouldn't take us and sent us back, but they finally let us through to Poland by bus. Poland was great. The people there were into enjoying life. But when we walked into the Soviet Union, we could feel the Iron Curtain. People there were patriotic, like in America. The motto of the government was peace, but they didn't like us because some people were turning on to us. Some would tell us they sympathized with what we were doing. So the government cut our time in half and tried to get us to take buses, but we wouldn't do it. So we had to walk 30 miles a day to Moscow, and we were tired when we got there. Martha and I had gotten married in West Germany. 10 of the original 12 finished the walk. Wow. Okay. After the first 3 days, when I went to town to get my stuff and all, I went to Zazen at Sokoji and afterwards talked to Suzuki Roshi in the balcony behind the kitchen. I showed him newspaper articles about it and told him what it was about, and he was very enthusiastic about me going on it. He was very supportive. When I came back to San Francisco, it was probably March or so of '62. There were a lot more people there at Sokoji. Graham was there, and Dick, and Suzuki's English was a lot better. I was very involved in activism at the time, and Buddhism wasn't the main thing on my mind. I'd go and sit. I went to Sausalito and helped a guy build a sailboat, the Everyman, and we were sailing to the South Pacific, to Christmas Island, to try to stop the last of the atmospheric nuclear tests. It was still '62, I think. We were stopped about 100 miles out from the Farallones Islands and were given a year in jail, 5 of us, for intending to interfere in the nuclear tests. We stayed in jail for 8 months till the tests were over. Then there was the nuclear test ban treaty. They would have let us out earlier, but we wouldn't say we wouldn't sail out again, so they kept us in. We were in Santa Rita a San Francisco County facility out past Walnut Creek where they kept some federal prisoners. After I'd been there for 3 weeks or a month, I think Dick Baker drove Suzuki Roshi out to see me. I just met with Suzuki in a room. It was very interesting. Obviously, they'd never seen anyone like him before. He waved over his shoulder at the guys there to play with them, the guards. He played with them. I didn't know he was coming. He laughed a lot. I told him about how I did zazen in the morning in the prison dormitory. There were 50 or 20 cots on each side of the room, and I'd wake up in the morning without an alarm clock and fold over my pillow and sit there. One morning a guard came in to check on us, and he flashed his flashlight around the room, and when he got to me, he stopped it for a while, and I just kept on sitting, and then he went away. Then there were the sound of more footsteps, and then there were more flashlights on me, and I just kept sitting, and someone said, "What are you doing, son?" And I said, "Sitting zazen." And he said, "Oh," and they went away. So I told Suzuki about that, and he got a kick out of that. I was just so impressed that he'd come all that way to see me. I'd never established a master-disciple relationship with him like a lot of people. To me, he was wonderful, but just one of many teachers I'd had. He may have felt more responsible to me than I to him as a teacher. Oksan, that's Suzuki's wife, showed me a picture of Suzuki Roshi walking in a march in Japan. It was a Hiroshima Day march, I think, and he was part of the Buddhist contingent. I don't think it was a Hiroshima Day march. I think it was a walk protesting the nuclear testing on Bikini Island, where a boatload of Japanese sailors had gotten radiation poisoning, and one or two of them had died. And those sailors came from Yaizu, Suzuki's town, and that was a very, very big deal in Japan. To them, it was like the second Hiroshima. That they weren't at war with America, and that we'd killed some of them and infected some with very serious amounts of radiation with its hydrogen bomb tests on Bikini Island. And people didn't want Suzuki to walk in that. They said, "No, don't go. There's going to be communists in that walk." And there's a communist party in Japan. I mean, it's in the diet in their Congress type thing, and they're pretty light communists. I mean, they're sort of like the other parties. But anyway, he said, "No, I'm going." And Oksan had a picture, and gee, why didn't she keep that and show it to me or something? Well, anyway, we've got just enough. Dan Welch's sister was living with Martha at the time. That's Jeannie Campbell. I don't know how she got involved with Zen Center. Well, Dan had been in a Zen temple in Japan, and that just makes sense. She wasn't there in Bernal Heights when I got out of prison. Lee Christensen had had a marriage go bad with a Hawaiian or Japanese woman. He turned to drinking a lot, and that did him in. Shortly after that, we went to Berkeley and didn't sit much after that. We'd come over the bridge for lectures, and then I think the last time I saw him was before Tassajara. I was more interested in political activism. We went to Chicago to organize workers. Hey, that's just what I did. But listen, I wasn't. I was just passing through compared to what Barton did. But I was 5 years earlier than him. People would ask him a lot about Satori or enlightenment after lectures, and he discouraged too much involvement with that. We'd all read Alan Watson, D.T. Suzuki, and Jack Kerouac, who I still love and appreciate what they did and what they had to offer. But Suzuki just gave us a bigger picture, a different way to look at it all that was less idealistic and more down to earth. That's how we'd come to it. But he would just laugh if we asked him to tell us about enlightenment or what was it like or how to break through all that. He worked hard at that and tried to get us to back off of that and more into being aware and kind to each other and into everyday life. Gary Snyder said once at dinner at his place that to him there is such a thing as enlightenment and that the best way to it is through working on koans. But Suzuki's teaching was not like that. It was kindness and attention. He was always completely there, really engaged in what he was doing. I went to Green Gulch with Martha and our kids, Alan and Ananda, from 74 to 78 or 79. And then we broke up and I went to Bolinas, where I lived with you and Liz. Until 10 years ago, I was an atheist. But since then, I've been into the goddess. I can see God as a woman. Martha went to Texas to study midwifery, and she runs a center for that now. Yeah, she did, but she came back. So that was his interview. God. Wow. That's really good, huh? So let's read another poem. Yeah, I remember this one. Meditation on grasping and clinging. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva addressed the assembled beings with deep compassion. Birth and death are relentless, and you are right to tremble as you behold them, for all beings are void of self-nature, and your alkaline diet will not save you. Your workout routine will not save you. The beetles will not come back to save you. Organic produce will not save you. Your vows will not save you. Mutual funds will not save you. Poetry will not save you. Zazen will not save you. Tree planting will not save you. Washboard apps will not save you. A clean car will not save you. Psychedelics will not save you. Your teacher will not save you. Big mind will not save you. Your family will not save you. Neither wit nor charm will save you. Rare gold coins will not save you. Jesus will definitely not save you. Virtue will not save you. Solar panels will not save you. Fame and fortune will not save you. Your super comfortable sharper image styrofoam pellet Zafu will not save you. Not even Constance's love will save you. That's his wife. Hearing aids will not save you. Expatriation will not save you. Degrees and credentials will not save you. Hope will not save you. Extended orgasms will not save you. The great mother's arms will not save you. No amount of vitamins and supplements will save you. Art will not save you. Meditations on grasping and clinging will not save you. Giddy episodes of gratitude will not save you. Antioxidants will not save you. Your grandchildren will not save you. Your reputation will not save you. The people's eventual uprising will not save you. Extraterrestrial entities will not save you, no matter how high their vibrational level. Beauty will not save you. Modesty will not save you. Invisibility will not save you. Hilarity will not save you. Clever turns of phrase will not save you. The esteem of your colleagues will not save you. Green tea and flax oil will not save you. Being debt-free will not save you. Hope for one more sunrise will not save you. Many of the assembled beings on that day, hearing those words and taking them to heart, immediately attained unsurpassed, complete, perfect life as it is, trembling and all. Wow. Very good. Wow, that's great. That's been a while. I want to mention something else that Barton did with Elizabeth Sawyer. They made the Buddha Mama burl. They got a burl, and Elizabeth Sawyer and Ken Sawyer live very near Barton. They live walking distance from downtown Occidental in Sonoma County, and they have a little Zendo there where people sit. And as we heard in Bart's podcast, he has an outdoor sitting. Ken and Elizabeth are doing outdoor sitting too. I like it. I think we should make every effort to get out and do things together carefully. I don't. Anyway. All right. Uh, but Barton is a super carpenter, and right now I don't know where the burl came from. Anyway, there's the whole story of it on Geek.com. Right, Buddha Mama burl are a back porch Zendo. That's the Sawyer Zendo. And gee, what a beautiful job. It's like an Avalokiteshvara. Um, and it's big. It's, God, it's almost life size. And it's beautiful. And it's outdoors. And anyway, that's just all I've got to say. It was done around, oh God, I don't know. I think they did it about 10, 15 years ago. Anyway, check it out. Really great. Really great. Yeah, from a bay, here I see. From a bay tree burl. I'm not, we ought to see if Elizabeth will do a podcast. And then she can talk about it. And I can read about it. Wow, there's the thing. Oh, yeah, he wrote a whole thing about 2006 Burning Man. There's a lot on him. Good Lord. I'll try to take the time to make a page and put all these links there. But all you have to do is just write Barton Stone in the site search box, and it'll come up. If you remember in the podcast when he said Lee Christensen, I said, I remember that name. Pardon. Well, yeah, I remembered it from from the interview I did with him 24 years earlier. And also, Art Atkinson had mentioned Lee Christensen. Art Atkinson was an early Suzuki student back then. A great interview with him on there, a very early one. Gee, well, thanks a lot for joining us, Barton Stone. And I look forward to reading more of your poetry, and I hope to be able to get to your house and pick those blackberries again. He's got a zillion blackberry bushes there. And, he's got a little meditation alcove, and he's got an area for his son, Alan, who passed away. I don't know if it's just one tree. I remember going there for a ceremony, but I can't remember what it was. It was a while back. Okay, the song we're gonna hear at the end is called Fooled by Everything, and it features Alan Stone on lead guitar, and it's from a tape I made called Fooled by Everything. I wrote the words and music, sang the lead vocal, and played rhythm guitar. And Don Armstrong's on the harp here. John Blakely produced it and engineered it. David Murray is on the bass. Susan Goldhaber is on some percussion. And Elizabeth Twomey on piano and vocal. So anyway, thanks a lot, Barton Stone. That's all great. You're just a big bundle of right livelihood. And all I can say now is this has been a Cuke Audio phone chat. I'm DC Poobah of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, coming to you from sleepy Sanur with Doga Bandita, Feline Cochita, and dear lovely Katrinka. And we're wishing you and yours a grand awakening.
think that there's something, or we think that there's nothing, or we think that it's in between. We hope for this, are afraid of that, or we might be feeling kind of feeling mean. Now there's a world of knowing and a lot of blowing, of cools and tops and winds and kite strings. We got a list of everything that is, but baby, we are fooled by everything. We got a big computer and a scary six-shooter. We got fins and we got wings. A tap on the facts, pressure points in our backs, aluminum hips and teeth that are clean. Convenient descriptions of all our addictions. Places where we're fat, places where we're lean. Have fun in the sun all day, hun. But baby, we are fooled by everything. Now I mean phone operators, prognosticators, interpretators of our every thought, ways to release from that infamous beast. But when you get free, see, you don't get caught. We got hands, plans, musicians, homes all surrounded by green. Fantastic notions, all right for explosions and mutual defense, packed for our dreams, optimistic models and backups when they crumble. And sometimes we just start running. We chew the fat at the tip of a hat. But baby, we are fooled by everything. Now I mean everything. I said everything. Everything. I mean everything. Wow! We get into delusion after leaving confusion. It's the biggest mess that you've ever seen. Then we're finding solutions and making exclusions. The mind gets soft and the brain gets keen. We're reading the masters and meeting them after, pursuing subtleties, trying to get our friends into what we're in. But baby, we are fooled by everything. But baby, we are fooled by